If you're looking to build a gaming PC this year, there's some really important stuff you need to know before building. And with so much information out there, how do you determine what the most important things are when not only selecting your parts, but assembling your build in the hope of getting the best frame rates possible? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through 5 of the most important things I think you need to know to hopefully make that process a little easier and save you a few mistakes in the part selection process. Let's do this. Now feel free to use the timestamps below to navigate through the 5 key things I'll be talking about in this video, but I really believe they're all very important. So let's kick straight off with the first, and that's how to pick the right CPU and GPU combo and why these two parts are so important. Now if you didn't already know, a gaming PC has 7 or 8 main core components. You've got the processor, you've got some form of cooling for the processor, a motherboard, which is what all your parts are going to connect into, some RAM or your short-term memory, some long-term storage, a case, and of course a power supply. Oh, and not forgetting the all-important graphics card. While of course you can make mistakes when selecting any of these parts, the best place to start is the CPU and GPU. It will determine the motherboard and memory type that's available for your system, and give you a good idea of how much power it's going to need and what size case you're going to have to pick up. Plus, the CPU and GPU combo is where you should be spending the majority of your money. In fact, you want to spend about 50% of your entire build budget on these two components. Now, when it comes to gaming, truth be told, you don't really need a top-of-the-range CPU to get the best performance. A current generation Ryzen 5 or Intel Core Ultra 5 is all most people will need. And on the higher end, you might want to look at AMD's Ryzen X3D lineup on the Ryzen 7 processor tier. You don't really need Ryzen 9 or Core Ultra 9 if gaming is all you're going to do. I'll actually pop some of my favourite combos on your screen now for a range of different price points, and we talk more about this in detail in a full CPUs and GPUs combo video, which you can find linked in the cards section now. I would also tailor your combo to the resolution that you're going to play. Be mindful that if you're playing at a higher res, you're more likely to be bound by a graphics card rather than a CPU bottleneck. Well, if you're playing at a lower res where the GPU is having an easier time, you're more likely to be bound by a processor than a graphics card bottleneck. Which brings me nicely on to the second point I want to talk about in today's video, and the second thing you need to know, bottlenecking, and crucially, how to avoid it. Bottlenecking is basically where one component within your system holds another component back. A really obvious bottleneck would be building a super high-end gaming PC and only putting 8 gigs of RAM in, or building a really high-end computer with a top-of-the-range graphics card and then putting in a low-end Ryzen 5 CPU. But actually, bottlenecking for most people is a bit more nuanced and a bit more complicated than just a massive part imbalance. And there's a hard truth about bottlenecking that lots of people don't want to accept. Your system has it, my system has it, everyone's system has some form of bottleneck. Because what a bottleneck is just a constraining factor that stops you getting more performance. The key is minimizing the bottleneck. The best way to do this, it links again to CPU and GPU combos, get these nicely balanced. And then make sure if you're going for a gaming PC, you've got at least 32 gigabytes of RAM and storage, which is fast enough for the PC that you're building. Going for a power supply that hasn't got enough power isn't something I would class as a bottleneck. That's more of a catastrophic mistake in your build. So be mindful that a bottleneck is something which isn't causing crashes and masses of instability. It's more something that's stopping your frame rate from going to the next level. Now, I talked about power there very briefly, and this is a bonus tip. If you're looking to get a power supply for your build, one mistake I see people make all the time is go for something that's like way too high end, has way more wattage than you're ever going to need. Chuck all your parts into PC Part Picker at around 30-35%, and that's a good guide as to the PSU you're going to want to go for. Alternatively, check the GPU manufacturer's website, check the specs for the model you've gone for, and it will have a recommended power supply. Be mindful if you've gone for a really high-end CPU for video editing and 25 hard drives, you're going to want to add a little bit to their recommended spec, but just keep that in mind when picking up a unit. High efficiency units on the 80 Plus Gold and Cybernetics Gold end of the spectrum are actually cheaper than they've ever been, and you'll want to look, especially if you're going for those next-gen GPUs, at a power supply with ATX3 functionality and a PCI Gen 5 cable already on board. Now, with my bonus point out of the way, let's talk about one of the big ones that I get. James, is AMD, NVIDIA, or Intel better? Now, for me, I have a clear no, I am joking. I don't have a favorite, but I want to talk about the 3 brands. Now, AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA all make graphics cards. Intel and AMD make CPUs. NVIDIA do not. So there are your choices. On the CPU side, AMD is currently doing a lot better in terms of desktop gaming CPUs than Intel. Intel 14th and 13th gen had a number of problems, and Intel Core Ultra hasn't provided great value, even if it's fixed some of the problems we saw on 13th 13th and 14th gen. That leaves AMD's Ryzen platform as the one you're going to want to go for. For gaming, you want 6 cores at minimum, preferably 8, but it's clock speeds and single thread performance that matters more. And you can find a guide on the channel on our best CPUs, again in the cards section now. Now, thankfully, GPUs are a lot more complicated, and there isn't necessarily one clear winner. To be clear, NVIDIA have a lot more market share than AMD, who have a lot more market share than Intel. And NVIDIA are the dominant player. Now, I actually recently launched a PC building business selling some of the systems we make here in the UK, and actually the number of people who choose to go for NVIDIA versus AMD is actually kind of crazy. The vast majority of our orders are going Team Green rather than Team Red. Now, Team Green has a few distinct advantages. Ray tracing performance is better. That affects the way that lights and shadows work in lots of games. DLSS, which is the AI upscaling tech, on NVIDIA is better than AMD at the moment, but AMD are quickly catching up. NVIDIA historically had better, more stable drivers. I think AMD's nowadays are very good, so this doesn't really hold water anymore. While NVIDIA do have a lot of content creator specific features, things like the ability to easily remove and blur backgrounds and get rid of background noise on microphones, I also really like the new NVIDIA app, despite a few of its initial teething problems, and think it's better than AMD's Radeon app at the moment. AMD though have some advantages too. You'll often get more video memory on an AMD graphics card versus its Intel counterpart, and the rasterization performance, that's pure gaming performance with no ray tracing, DLSS, frame generation, FSR, XeSS, is often better for the price on AMD than NVIDIA. AMD will drop prices of GPUs crazy low, so if you're looking for a bargain, AMD is the one you're going to want. Now, on the Intel side of the equation, things are very rapidly improving. Intel's first gen ARC cards were pretty rubbish, but they did achieve something quite extraordinary, which was bring Intel into the gaming GPU race, even if they were very much so last. However, they've muscled up and they're back with ARC Round 2, and it is a lot better. They're only really competing at the moment at the budget end of the market. Do I think they're going to take on the RTX 80, 90 tier of GPUs anytime soon? No, they're not. But if you're looking for a really great value card, definitely look at Intel's latest ARC generation of graphics cards. In at number 4, and the penultimate tip to talk about, is how to future-proof your system. Now, again, this is another thing where there is a massive disclaimer needed with big red sirens, some smoke, a police tape light. The video editor's gonna hate me. I'm just making this worse. Maybe make me green. Can I be green? I'm now green. Anyway, you get the point. That disclaimer is that the word future-proofing is a kind of a load of shit. You can't really do it. Now, the reason is we never know what's going to come in the future, and we never know how you can truly protect your system against what comes ahead. But we can try, and we like to try here on the GeekaWhat channel. Now, there's a few things to note. Games are using more and more video memory, so going for a GPU with more VRAM is a good way to try and future-proof your system. AMD's AM5 CPUs, like their Ryzen 7 and 9000 series, both use the same CPU socket, which AMD say they're going to continue releasing new CPUs on until at least 2027, meaning we've got 3 whole years of new processors on the same socket. That means our upgrade paths are going to be good. DRAM or normal system memory is another one. Don't go and chuck 128 gigs in your system, it's a waste of time. However, you might want to pop in 2 16GB DIMMs rather than 4 8GB DIMMs to give yourself a bit of upgrade paths. And if you're buying a motherboard and know you want to use the PC for, I don't know, video editing in the future, or you think the PCI Gen 5 NVMe slots would be useful for upcoming upgrades, get a motherboard that has that functionality. Just be really careful that when you future-proof your system, you don't do it such that you spend so much money future-proofing, you can't actually afford the best components right now. I'll give you a practical example. You've got $1,500 to spend. You could have bought a 4070 Super, but instead you get a really high-end motherboard and a massive power supply, and you can only buy a 4060 Ti. You're, yes, allowing yourself more future upgrades, and there are benefits to that, but you're actually building an inferior, less powerful gaming PC right now, and that's not a logical idea. That's 4. What about number 5? I want to talk about pre-builts versus DIY. Should you buy a system ready built, or should you build it yourself? Here on the channel, I've always been a big advocate for the DIY approach. And while I think that pre-builts are great for those who maybe don't want to assemble the system, want the peace of mind of a warranty, or just are buying the system as a gift, I love PC building, and I think that you would love it too if you gave it a go. Now, the reason that we launched Geeka PC here in the UK is because there are just people people who don't want to build systems, and that's totally fine. But be aware that whether you buy a pre-built from, well, anyone all around the world, the likelihood is it's going to cost you more money than the DIY approach. The best deals and best bargains come when you've got the ultimate flexibility to go out and buy whatever parts you want. Now, the one thing that I think people often confuse between pre-builts and the DIY approach is that the research element shouldn't go away. Now, yes, if you're going to buy a pre-built, you don't need to know how to put it together, but I would still massively recommend researching the performance of the CPU and GPU combo that you're going for. This ensures you know the kind of performance that you're paying for, because ultimately, it doesn't matter how nicely a system is built, you're never going to get more performance from lower end components at an equivalent price point. If you want to check out any of our builds as pre-builts, I'll leave the link down below, but honestly, I would much rather you did what was right for your circumstance. So those then are some of my key PC building tips, tricks, and things you need to know before assembling a system, not only this year, but years into the future too. Have you got any tips you think I missed out? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.